This wave 2 is coming from a different direction. But between the two of them, it makes everything much bigger. This is something called friction is fiction. And as you can see there's an image there of Amazon.com and their new website design. This time last year when we ran our Fast Forward event, I was saying that what you'll see is a lot of the websites out there, they are going to be gearing themselves to mobile. They're going to gear themselves to products that no longer they have to ship to you. And sure enough, Amazon came out within several months with their redesign, where if you go to their site now, really to even find a physical product is a lot more difficult. Everything on the top line there, whether it's the cloud player, music, whether it's Kindle, are all electronically delivered to you. And the reason for that, and what we're seeing all around the world, which is one of the biggest things that has taken a lot of us by surprise, is that people are not willing to prepare to pay for what they used to pay for before. They're not willing to put as much effort in to show up at an event anymore like they used to, or to read a book the way they used to, or to buy something like training when they can just watch it on YouTube. So what's going on which makes it so much more difficult for us to even find the same number of people who are willing to pay the same amount of money today? And what's going on is that all products have got two elements of cost. They have one thing which is called core cost. Core cost is the cost which will directly impact the delivery of the value that you get. So when I read a book, what's the core cost? Well, it's really just the cost of the guy who wrote it, really. And frankly, I'm willing to share that cost with everyone else who reads the book as well. And in fact, if the guy's actually happy he's got enough money from that, then really the core cost is nothing. Because it's not costing me anything at all for me to actually just read that content. Then you've got something called peripheral cost, which is everything else which makes no difference whatsoever to me and my value I get, but somewhere along the line was used to deliver that to me. So if I'm reading a book in Borders, then I have this huge cost, which is not just the cost of what are the costs to actually print that book? What are the costs to actually get that book into that store? What's the costing to actually have the store in the bookshelf right now? It's also what's the cost of me having to travel to be here? Not just cost of money, but time. Cost to look for the right book in the first place when someone could just give it to me. This cost is 99% of all the cost of that book. I'd much rather go and just pay and give a big chunk of profit to Amazon for them to actually, give me this one straight away in a much better form. So if you've got content right now, there's a good chance you will never ever be able to charge for that content in the same way you could. There's musicians already who know that they are better off giving their music away for free and then making the money from the experience when they show up for the concert. Because they're realizing, geez, people are going to share it with each other for free anyway, so why am I trying to compete with that? Because all my peripheral cost of this actually is really very little, but I need to make money somewhere. Never try and make your money out of peripheral cost. As long as you're trying to make your money here, you're out of business. So thinking, well, how can I actually build up the value differently to make this happen? So this here, friction to fiction, this here is the friction. The friction is the things that we need to pay for, which actually, if they just got out of the way, would allow us to be able to enjoy the value we actually want. And what we're seeing is some massive shifts in friction. Good example. We're seeing this not just in terms of how products come to us, we're seeing this in terms of how we even buy products. Mobile payments. The biggest friction in all economies in the world is money. It's money. Why? Because the government is managing the money in such a way they can get money for taxes, they can actually keep trade in a country, so you've got to use money that the government has issued instead of you using your own. We all know today there's many different currencies online that different companies already use. If I get onto an airplane and I'm on Singapore Airlines, I can use currency called the points that will actually get me from A to B without having to pay any tax on it, and these currencies are growing and growing and growing. But even with the currencies that governments use, they're growing as well. I'm putting up some articles here. This one here is June 14th. This was this week, which was mobile payments on Square. Doubles. This is by Jack Dorsey, the same guy who started up Twitter, has now started up Square. He's now got 2 million users in just 6 months. He's doubled it up. You're seeing the growth there of people just saying, you know what, I'll pay for that in this particular way. Why is this important? Because before, someone wouldn't even pay for something for $1 or for $10 if they didn't have the change in their pocket. If you're selling a service like coaching or training, or you're selling a service like you've got a product or a business, whereas before they would say, well, look, make it worth my effort to even put my money, get my money out there. So make it a bigger amount. Whereas today it's like, make it a small amount, and if there's an easy way for me to do a one click, I'll just do a one click and it's done. So more and more micropayments are showing up, which means your product range better start from free and better move all the way through the spectrum. And if it's not doing that, you're going to already have a block before people can even start sampling and getting involved in your value, and that's where all the problems start. We can go from that and say, well, in the same way that we're seeing Passbook just opened up on Apple, we've got Apple who's now set up catalogs that have just come out, which means you can have your own store on here as well. So what does this mean? It means that if you currently are in a business where the only way that someone new who isn't yet doing business with you can do business with you is that their friend says to them, hey, you should go see Roger because he's got some great products. And then that person needs to go, oh, okay, well, I better go do that. Then they've got to go and put all the effort into looking at the website. They've got to go and show up. They've got to do all these things. There's a good chance they won't even do all those things. And if I'm then competing with someone else who basically says, hey, you got to look at the stuff that Roger's doing. And by the way, here it is. And it's on this iPad. And oh, wow, that looks really great. How do I get involved? Well, just click here and you're already in it. Wow, that's fantastic. Click here and then you're in it. And that person basically is my shopfront. If every one of your customers is not your shopfront, then you'll be out of business with someone else who might not even have as good a product as you, but where they've made sure that every one of their customers is a shopfront. And if you don't give your customers a chance to actually buy things and actually have other people buying things straight away. You know, Pinterest at the moment has just had this big investment from Rakuten, which is Japan's largest catalog company. Because basically they want to make sure that if you've got a Pinterest page, you can immediately sell stuff off that page and earn money from that as well. And every one of us will have shop fronts on whatever we want in the future. If you like Mercedes-Benz, classic Mercedes-Benz, you can have that as your shop front. You can have a beautiful images, and if someone wants to buy one, they can buy it, and that'll earn you enough money you don't have to work for the month. So this is about saying, well, what's your niche? What's the thing that you want to be involved in? And are you working on the wrong end of the paradigm given the shift that's taking place right now? So when we say, well, let's look at a couple more to see how this is panning out. If we look at, for example, Groupon will in the next 3 to 4 years change from the model it's getting at the moment that's not working, which is the daily deal sites. It worked great to get them big, but they're going to become a bank. In fact, all the biggest mobile phone companies will become banks, and the entire bank industry is the next one that will effectively break down into its pieces in the same way that we've seen it happen in the media industry more recently. And so why is that happening? Because people already have got platforms like what Apple's doing is using a platform. Groupon's now got a PayPal reader or a payment reader they're using. iZettle just 2 days ago, which is the biggest payment gateway using your iPhone or your iPad in Europe, they just got $31 million. Well, who would pay that kind of money on something that's just starting up? MasterCard. You've got MasterCard and a whole series of others who've gone involved with this one because, again, they know that every one of us in this room in 2 to 3 years' time, if not earlier, will not only have our own retail stores selling whatever we want, we'll be our own bank. Which means this is already happening here in the States and is rolling out at the moment with Visa and MasterCard, is that you can effectively take whatever is on your Visa or credit card and someone wants $1,000, you can just give them $1,000. You can pay some money back. You don't need to go to a bank in order to be able to actually transfer any money. So why does that change everything? Because the easier you make it for money to flow and flow through you or flow through your customers, the more it's going to flow through and support your business. And the more difficult you make it, no matter how great your product, you're going to miss out on this next wave. And we're going to see many, many people in the next 5 years who have brilliant businesses and brilliant products have to scramble to catch up while others are already ahead of the game. So are there simple ways to do this? Yes, we'll get onto those a little later as well. But I just want to just go for the importance of this. We have within our business, within Wealth Dynamics, something called Orion, which is our affiliate program. So we've got about 2,500, 3,000 people who are part of our program right now. Many of them are just casual users of the Wealth Dynamics. Many of them are large companies that use it already, but we want to make sure everyone who's part of it already are buying wholesale rate from us. So your ability to have not just a membership program, but a way for each one of them to have a store. So over this next year, what we're doing is we're taking our online store and we personalize that for everyone. So anyone who wants their own personal store can have their own personal store. You can have your own products on it, you can have your own material on it, you can use it for whatever you're doing to get out there to your business or support people who are looking for smarter ways to run entrepreneurship. But fundamentally, we're not looking for everyone to come to our website anymore. The days of a landing page are gone. The days of having hundreds or thousands of landing pages or connections out there are here. And it's in the same way that you don't have to go to one well to get your water anymore. I can go to any tap in this hotel and it will give me that water. So I don't say to anyone, where's the well? I just say, well, where's the closest tap? And I'll go to it. And money is going that way, products are going that way. And so you want to make sure you've got a whole plumbing system, not just a well, so people don't have to physically show up to do business with you. They can do it with you anywhere. Does that make sense? Yes. Yeah, fundamental. By the way, why have we got big organizations and industries that aren't getting this and are collapsing around us? And we can see it happening. Why can they not learn? It's because there's this huge shift between the idea of control, when you've actually got this concept of things starting with production. So production and the power production, which we're going to come to in a moment, is the whole basis of our economy. In fact, economics really started only 100 years ago. The theory of economics. Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, was about economics being to economize, which is to have lack. So it's about the management of scarce resources. How do governments manage scarce resources so that they can actually control and manage an entire industry? That's where economics comes from. Well, we know that there's a whole bunch of resources like content, like knowledge, like information, like ideas that are not scarce. In fact, the more we share them, the more they grow. It's gone the opposite way. But this is how things used to be. So as a result of it being this way, people would say that, so if you can control the production of these resources, then this control, which are, by the way, on a river, these are called banks. So that's why most governments will control those banks, because this keeps it in here. So as long as we have that, it means that if we've got someone out here saying, I'm thirsty, give me some water, we can then give them something, and we'll call it a channel. We can call it a distribution channel, we can call it a media channel. It's a channel. And here's another one out here, and we'll charge people for these channels. So you buy your newspaper, you turn on your TV, you're getting a channel of information or knowledge or content, which works fine as long as distribution, and we'll tax the borders, right? So we're basically having, we'll have, a sales tax, or we'll have like import tax. So we'll tax it, so we'll be able to control all of this, and that's all fine and good, provided everything can only come through this power production. There's a problem with that, is that more recently, it has begun to rain. And suddenly it's raining and everyone's getting enough to drink, and they're like, we don't need this anymore. And over here, everyone's like, whoa, what's going on here, right? Here we are. So they try and stop the rain. Oh no, we're gonna have to tax that too. It's like, how are you gonna tax my rain? So this is the same as, this happened, the last time this happened, the way it's happening in America right now, you can go back about 40, 50 years, it happened in India. What happened was that the British government at that point was seeing that the Indians were getting to a different level of empowerment. They didn't like this. They didn't have to buy from the British anymore. So the British says, we're going to start taxing everything. One of the things that they said that they were going to tax was salt, because that was one thing that everyone used. So there was that big march to the sea that Gandhi did, which is what got him all the trouble, where he marched with a huge group down to the sea in Mumbai, and he basically made salt from the sea, and he said, tax that. Because there's certain things in nature which are just there. Flows in nature is there. Our ability to do business with anyone around the world is there. And there are certain institutions, which will include entire governments, but certainly already include large organizations out there. And when you look at some of the ones that haven't fallen yet, because a lot of them, like, for example, our entire finance industry has already fallen. There was a time you had to go to New York to the stock exchange to actually be able to trade a stock. Don't have to do that anymore. You can just do it online. There's a time you actually had to go and physically show up somewhere to actually have a social conversation. Don't have to do that anymore. You can do it online. But there's some which haven't yet gone that way but will, like the health industry or like the education industry. And you can be like the horses talking about all the manure, or you can say, forget about that, let's go upstream and just actually work with the people up there that already are doing great things, because it's all going to come downstream anyway. They're all going to collapse. There's no question. We can see it. And there's going to be certain institutions that are trying to hold it back that are going to collapse. Coming from Singapore, I can tell you that in Singapore at the moment, they already went the opposite way. They already said, how could we be as open as possible to flow coming through us? And because they understood that concept, they're now one of the top financial centers in the world, and there's a huge amount of American money moving into Singapore right now because people want to have that ability to have more freedom in how they're going to manage their economies as they go forward. There's a difference of economy. The opposite of an economy is something called an ecology. Ecology is something that's natural, and it's one where in economy there's lack, whereas in an economy there is abundance. Basically, there's enough for everyone. And if you take something like survival of the fittest, within lack, survival of the fittest shows up. The whole Darwinian theory shows up, which is like whoever's the strongest is going to win. But if you've ever been to Africa, if you've ever actually gone to a safari, it isn't just lions that are there. It isn't like we're the strongest, we're going to eat everyone else and then we're going to win. That's not what happens. Because true natural evolution is not about the strongest winning. The true natural evolution is about the system sustaining. And the lion gets that. The lion gets, I'm going to eat what I need, but I'm going to sustain the system as well. Somewhere along the line, humans can forget that, and it's about getting back to that. We have to, because if you don't, you're going to go down with the river. Does that make sense, everyone? All right, so it's really fundamental here that what we're talking about, friction is fiction, is knowing that as long as you've got anything that's got barriers, you've got to get rid of it. And that's not just about money, it's about countries. So here is just a snapshot that I just took of our websites, we have about 50 different websites which have a number of different things around my entrepreneur business. My entrepreneur business is educating entrepreneurs, very different from the other business I have. And what you can see here is a list of, here we've got like what, 90,000, 89,000 visits from 5,600 cities, 173 countries. You know, Sydney, Melbourne, you've got Singapore, you've got London, Cape Town. America's not even, I think, featuring in the top 20 of those, but they're all from different countries. And of those 5,000 different cities, guaranteed the majority I've never been to in my life. So why would I have a business that does that? Well, when you actually open yourself up to be a global business, then there's nothing stopping you. You don't have to put any barriers on any of it anymore. And it's easier today to start a global business than to start a local business, which means you actually learn more as a global business. You connect with more people. Every day you wake up and you say, right, well, I'm here to do business with the world today. Who can I learn from? So when you're actually collecting information, you're not saying what information can I learn from America. In fact, that's almost the last thing you look at, because that's the easiest to get to. And when you start thinking and learning like that, you get inspired by the rest of the world, and more importantly, you get to make a bigger difference. You get to see that you can achieve more in life as well, because there are people on the other side of the world that will probably value your product even more than your next door neighbors. So here is just a couple of examples. I know some of you might have seen the video where I've already got our sites in many different languages. Khan Academy is going global. This just came out this week. Salman Khan, focus in the last 2 years, is getting this into many, many different languages. How do they do that? They do that by letting people have the tools to be able to just put their own subtitles underneath any one of their, and so it's open source. They don't have a whole team there trying to do it. They let anyone do this right now. You'll see that the same. Here's that little blue one there is America. That's internet users in the world. America is like 1 in 8 people right now. Within 8 years, it will be 1 in 20 people. 1 in 20, which means if we took everyone in this room, let's say we've got 200 people in this room, you're talking about 10 people. We'd be taking just everyone in these 2 rows here is America, compared to everyone actually just logging on every day. Why would you do business with just that? Now, if you say, well, it's because I don't have the knowledge of the languages, well, look, here's something that would help out. Google Translate. Google Translate, this article just came out because Google Translate just announced this. You might already know that Google Translate allows you to look at a website in a different language. But the thing is, it's not that, like all things, it's not that perfect to begin with. They've just created the tools that allows any website owner to go in and self-correct your own website, to allow your customers to self-correct the website as well. So effectively, you can have it in as many different languages you have. So I implore you today when you go home to put it, in fact, do it now if you want, put a list of which different languages you think that your business should already be doing business in. Just what should it be? And go home tonight and start doing it. You can already do it. So you can have it in Chinese, you can have it in Urdu if you want, you can have it in Swahili if you want. You decide what it is. You can have it in Australian. You can decide what it is. That was a joke. You can decide what other countries you want to be doing business with, and the moment you think, that already shifts the way that you're thinking about life as well. And that's the reason I'm in America, by the way. I've spent the last 5 years, as many of you know, doing many things around the world where there's flow, but I'm seeing in America that America is at a point where unless there are more conscious individuals here who are really getting this message and saying, why on earth, then that, it just keeps shrinking like that. And you can put a drop of water on its own and hope that it's going to stay separate from the ocean. But as that drop of water gets less and less, at some point it evaporates altogether. And my background's from England. I can tell you that if you go back 50 years, England was exactly where America is today. It was like top of the world, it was like the British Empire, and now look at it. So it doesn't mean it disappears totally, but the weather never gets better. So the thing here is about saying, well then, how can we actually use this one? The move from static to fluid is saying everything flows. The shift to the product spectrum is saying start from free and move all the way through that spectrum. No matter what kind of business you have, you need to start moving that already so that you're ready for it when it shows up. Whenever there is an opportunity to use a platform, use the platform. There's a big difference today compared to 10 years ago, whereas 10 years ago, I would go to some courses on the internet, and they would say that what you need is you need an entire SEO strategy, you need a landing page, you need people to come and take payment on that. All that stuff doesn't work in anything like the same way anymore. And the reason is because today, if I go and I look at something which is on Apple, iTunes, or I look at something which is on Amazon, or I look at something that's eBay, they've already got my account details. I'm happy to buy something there for $1, for $10. But then if I go to a website where they want me to enter all my information, all my credit details, it's like, oh, here we go. And that becomes friction straight away. So all of the money right now is flowing into a number of platforms. These platforms here, 5 of them, these are the big 5. It won't always be like this, in the same way that there was times when AOL was a platform and they don't exist in the same way anymore as well. But it will be for at least the next couple of years to a varying degree. eBay, Facebook, Amazon, iTunes, and Google Play to a lesser extent, but it's trying to grow that. What they all have in common is that you give them your credit card details, and once they have your credit card details, you're happy to buy things within that marketplace. So right now within our business, we have an Amazon page, we have an Amazon site, we have an Apple site. On each one of these, you can actually go on there and buy directly from that. And as you see, this is just in the last 2 months, Facebook has now announced and just launched its own app store as well, and you can see why they're doing that. And so that's going to be a big competitor to Apple. And so just knowing that means you don't have to be good at technology or all this stuff. But what you do need to do is to know you've got the right products so that you can actually then move onto that very easily. And you'll see that all the biggest stories right now of success are coming from these places. Global versus local. It's easier today for a global business than a local business to be successful. What could you already apply from just this second wave? What is it that you could already take, even just about different languages getting out there, that you could already imagine would not just set you up for success today, but certainly ensure that in the coming years, you don't become redundant in your own business?